Okay, when you get to Mercury and Capricorn and Aquarius, the two winter signs, but they ruled by Saturn. That's the two cold times. It's the hardest, most difficult time of the year. There's more problems, more difficult to get by. So Mercury there is practical and cautious. It's strategic. It's planning. In Capricorn it plans, and in Aquarius it strategizes. You're having to get by. You have to think of necessity. You have to think of the work. You're having to be responsible. Or I can't think like this, or I can't think, I don't want to study like this. I don't want to do like this. There's a tendency to be defensive, Saturn. In the winter time it would be defensive. So these are the practical, kind of cold, dry thinkers, and a tendency to be cautious or inhibited in the thinking. And yet there's a discipline, so what might be inhibited or shy or reserved or not want to communicate when one's young, or a disassociation. As one gets older, the very inhibition can create an ambition to have to accomplish some work or have to align somewhere. But generally it's practical. It's not really independent explorative. It's generally more responsible, serious to Capricorn and Aquarius Mercury. So if you have your Mercury and Capricorn and Aquarius, your relationship to your father, your relationship to a job, to ambition becomes important. And if it becomes negative and you block it, you're going to have a negative Mercury and you're depressed all the time until you finally start, I can't do this, why bother doing this? You get the inhibition rather than the ambition. But inhibition is the source of ambition, so the two are kind of in bed with each other. So if you're feeling the inhibited side of it, in time you'll have to work to develop your proper thinking so that you get ahead and get accomplished and get recognized for it, and you figure that in some texture in your life. So Mercury in Gemini is not normally going to be inhibited or reserved. They're going to be very talkative and playful and humorous. So Mercury in Capricorn and Aquarius is not likely to be quickly humorous. They have more of a dry wit or practical thinking. So this is, again, it would be easy to take an hour and just talk about one planet in one sign and one rulership and just go into that. But you're doing that with your chart and you're going through it, and I'm doing it so that as you've done that work, you can start to see, oh yeah, I saw this, and then it expands on what you see, and it expands to include all the other options. And this I like teaching this way, because if you just do one sign at a time, you go through each category at a time. You do that when you're working with your chart, but when I'm doing it as a class, it's more interesting to see the whole category, the whole layers, and how it works, and you get this understanding building up. And once it's there, you're in a good place to guide people responsibly. So, okay, where are we? Okay, we're right on time. So from here, you get the keywords that really reinforce. Okay, you have the rulerships, but there's also the detriment. So if Mercury's in Sag, Mercury is the detriment. So there's a tendency for Mercury to not work so well in Sag, or to exaggerate in that. So this is the sides of where you have to overcome the detriment to get to align better with the. So like for Capricorn, to try and think about feelings and domestic things, that comes out as worry and not so good. It's supposed to get more strategic and ambition over time. So the rulerships the detriments are really the other side of the rulerships. But between the two, they tell you, here's what you have to work towards, and here's how you have to work. You counter the negative expression in the other. You don't make that the strongest factor, the detriments. So rulerships are called rulerships. They're also called, when a planet is dignified, it means the same thing as saying it's in the sign as rules. So if Mercury is in Gemini, it's dignified, or it's in the sign that Mercury rules. If in a detriment, it's either Mercury in Sag would be detriment, or it would be ill-dignified. It won't work. It won't express it. There's a way to express itself well, but it has to work to not exaggerate. So the keywords are just reinforcing the guidance of the rulership. So if Mercury is in Aries, I am thinking, I am doing it. It's ruled by the Mars. Mercury is in Taurus, I'm thinking about what I have, what I have to have, what I have to do. I'm thinking about that. So the mind is inclined to that. And I will work Mercury in Gemini, it's I'm thinking. That's enough. I'm thinking. This is interesting. This is interesting. That's, like, don't stop. Don't try and tell me how to think. When Mercury's in the Cancer, it's trying to think about its feelings and its memories, and talk about the past and the family. When Mercury's in Leo, it's like it's linked up to the sun, so you're trying to talk about your kids and your victories or how you're best. When Mercury's in Virgo, there's a better system. You're always trying to improve things. You analyze. So I will be best. I feel. I think. These are the mind will get caught working through these. And Libra, I balance, I relate. What do you think? What do you think? You're trying to see how someone else thinks and be appreciated and not be coarse. So there's a struggle to get your mind to work in that way. The I desire of Scorpio, when you desire to be with someone, your mind is going to think about it, and you're going to try and go do it whether it's right or wrong. You know, so usually you keep your mind busy enough and you don't mind other people's business, it tends to work better. But I understand is Jupiter, right and wrong understanding. That's the challenge of the Mercury in the Sag. And the Capricorn is I use. What's useful? What's bad? That's not useful. I don't need that. Why bother that? You have to see how something's useful. It's useful to accomplish something because then I get respect. It's better than disrespecting or disassociating and not fitting in anywhere. And the Aquarius is knowledge. I know what I'm thinking about. And using the knowledge rather than ignorance. And then Pisces, it's about the thinking about I believe things. It's not the rational mind, it's a believing mind. It's fascinating, it has a great social conscience, but it's gullible. So these are just things to help you reinforce the planetary rulership, the keywords, and have things to make associations with. So, okay, so these are all the different categories we've gone through. Just going through it, but the key thing here is just make each one real. Take the time, make the connection, and once you've done it with your chart, you're not going to do every factor like this with everybody's chart, but you've done it once with yours when you need to. You got a kid that's got a special problem, and suddenly the Mercury's afflicted, you can go in and walk and see exactly how to talk about it, and take the time to build up the depth thinking so you can see how to help someone. Okay. So next week we're dealing with Venus. These two inner planets, they're personal. In some ways they don't show up that much in the transit, but you really see them in your behavior and how you're growing as a person. These are the things of how we connect personally to each other. So this was about thinking and communicating and being alert and what distracts us from being alert. Next week we're dealing with Venus, which I want you to do the worksheet before we get there if you can. And Venus is about your values, about your choices and what you like, what you're attracted to, and what you're repulsed from. How happy are you? How contented are you? How envious are you? How lustful are you? For what? In what way? These are the Venus things. So just, there's always an attraction and repulsion, a love and a hate, a wanting or not having something, or envying something. So there's always two sides to Venus, but it is how you make choices. It affects how you choose things. How beautiful you think you are, how handsome you think you are. All of these factors, these are Venus factors. So work through your Venus. We'll start it next week. And thank you. And we'll we have to decide in December whether somewhere in December or November we do 2 classes in 1 week, because otherwise the last class was going to be, I think, on the 18th. It throws the last class to being between Christmas and New Year's. And if we can avoid it, we can avoid it by doing 2 classes in 1 week, or we can just put it in there, and who can make it can. It doesn't matter to me. I'm inclined to just go once a week and just do it right through. But let me know what you're thinking about this, okay? And the majority will rule. Okay, thanks. See you next week. And thanks for being with me. Today is my birthday, so this is my party. Thanks for being with me. Okay, bye-bye.